and welcome back to more Sunbreak. Today we have an overview of one of our new Rise monsters, or rather, a returning monster. We're of course talking about the frenzy beast himself, Gore Magala, who has finally returned after we last saw him in GU, making his way into a more current style, a current generation of Monster Hunter. It's very exciting because he's easily one of my favourite monsters, the source of the frenzy, he's a six-limbed beast, and that whole alien feel to his design, something about it, the dark colouring, I love it. Much like many returning monsters from old gen though, we will now get to see him in a new visual style with some big mechanical updates to see him in a much more fluid way. Today we're going to be doing a full overview of our new Gore, the fight itself, a comparison to the old version, and also of course take a look at the new weapons and armor available to ask if they're good, if they're worth using. Let's begin with the fight itself though. Gore comes in two modes, normal and transformed, and can even enrage when in his regular mode or his frenzy mode. Now a key word here is of course frenzy. We've mentioned it quite a few times already, it's time to talk about it. Gore has a unique status effect that can work against you or actually in your favor, and it's pretty incredible when it does. So Gore has many different types of frenzy attacks, and if you are afflicted by the frenzy, you will suddenly have a status bar above your health. This is a blue bar that begins to fill up, and when that fills up fully, you will be afflicted truly by the frenzy and be very vulnerable. However, if you deal damage while you're building this bar and deal enough damage, you'll actually cleanse the effect and get a really powerful buff. That's shown by the blue cloud that replaces that bar on your status bar, or the literal blue on your arm in game. This is going to give you a huge boost to your affinity, a whopping 15% affinity just for dealing enough damage to him, which you'll want to do anyway to avoid the debuff. And it also leaves you immune to frenzy for a little while you've got it. So if you keep the damage up while you're afflicted by frenzy originally, it's building up more and more, you can get that serious buff and then even become immune, making the fight easier. However, if you fail to do enough damage, right, you're going to let that bar fill up, and then when it hits, you're going to see a red cloud on your icon, you're going to have that awful blue sort of smoke about your character, and now you're going to not have any red recovery when you take damage, meaning you're now taking pure damage, and you're also going to take extra damage from any frenzy attack. A useful trick to deal with that bar filling up then, and giving yourself more time to actually beat the frenzy, is to use nullberries, which will give you a little bit longer and buy you some more time. Now with frenzy explained, let's talk about his different modes and what you should expect. In his original normal mode, you will see him with his arms kind of closed. You'll see the claws tucked in, and he won't actually have any horns. The antenna, they won't be out either. Now during this time, he will do a variety of frenzy charged attacks to try to cause frenzy in you, and many of them will in fact leave a small pool underneath him, which if you step into, that will cause the frenzy buildup as well. I would recommend you don't try to avoid this. It is a benefit, it's a huge buff to get that affinity buff, and so many of his attacks are going to leave these pools, so many attacks are going to involve frenzy, you are going to be afflicted by that buildup, and you might as well work with it. These frenzy attacks are going to come in a nice variety. You can have charged up cleaves, frenzy at close range. He's going to shoot out balls of frenzy from the mouth, and these can go in straight line or curve around to catch you off guard, which is horrible. Many of his various attacks are going to be like little snaps and bites of frenzy as well, and then yes, there's going to be those many pools of frenzy to step into. Alongside that, you're going to see that classic iconic slow sweeping tail attack where he spins around and like whip cracks you, alongside many various short or longer charges and sort of bumps with his body. He'll even jump up into the air briefly to slam back down in a very weighty way, but he can also hang in the air and do some various long-range frenzy shots while he's up there. If he does enrage though, you can tell by the mouth now glowing with that frenzy, and the wings, while still closed, will have a glow effect to them. He'll be doing more damage and faster attacks, and it seems his basic attacks also leave the pools out more often. This is at this point I start seeing double pools. But when things get interesting, of course, is when he goes into his frenzy mode, when he transforms and those wing arms, they come out, slamming them into the ground and using all 6 limbs at once. You'll also notice that the area you're playing in has become like a deep blue cloud, and the antennae are going to be out as well, which are going to be these big pink horns on his head. Now, as you might imagine, attacking the antenna is going to be a really good idea for various reasons. Mainly, you deal ridiculous damage to these things. They're the ideal target, and you want to break both of them. Now, throughout his transformation, he will now be using those those extra arms. Those wing arms will be used in single slam attacks, double slam attacks, or he'll even slam them down at the same time for this huge explosive hit. We'll still see full body attacks where he's doing sort of shoulder tackles now as well, and the basic combos we saw earlier, just with more effect to them. In general, those frenzy blasts and attacks, they're going to be bigger and more dangerous. He'll start using a new blast attack where it's this huge ball of frenzy he shoots out, which then explodes and cascades out at the sides. He could do this at point blank or at range, so you have to be very wary where you're standing when he does this. He's also a bit more agile when he's doing his attacks and leaping around, jumping up into the air and slamming down even quicker. But overall, I would describe him, like I said, as more wing and arm based. But as I said, targeting the antenna is going to be the way to go here. Not just for the damage, but when you do enough damage to them, it'll knock him out of his frenzy mode. The world will return to normal, he'll close his wings and stop using them. And not only will the antenna lose their glow, but will even retract inside. Of course, he can also enrage during the frenzy mode, which once again will mean more damage and faster combos to deal with. It's extremely dangerous at this point. So I would recommend you save your traps, endemics, or other tools that help you deal damage during the transformation so that you can focus his antenna and get out of that mode as quickly as possible. What's funny though is when he's actually exhausted in the fight, he'll still try to use his various frenzy attacks, but the frenzy won't come out. So if he does like a mouth shot, nothing will happen, and that means he's very vulnerable. You can just get up to his face and deal loads of damage while he does nothing. So that's a kind of overview of current Gore. If we compare it to, say, the GU version or the older gen of Gore, we see a very familiar guy, but he's quite a lot bigger, and the main difference is when he transforms. The antennae are massive and like these straight huge tuning rods or something. We have that familiar concept though of frenzy. He'll leave lots of small pools on the ground. I reckon he actually does more in the old version, and they're kind of vague and see-through. I think they're much nicer to see in the current version. Much the same, his wings will be sheathed until he transforms, where he brings them out in much the same way. When we get afflicted by frenzy, we see it on the left side of the screen instead, and it's a similar bar that fills up that if you deal enough damage, you will cleanse and get that same buff. And there's familiar moves like that classic tail whip attack that was there originally. The triple sort of ball frenzy shot that do also swerve and wave around like the current version. Once again, a lot more see-through like the pools on the ground. Even when he's transformed and in the frenzy mode, we see the big double slam, which is a big move in current version. And of course, we also have the range shot, which arcs out left to right in sort of a T shape, just like again the sort of super attack of the current version. When I look at him in the old version, he's kind of, like I said, bigger conceptually, but slower and simpler mechanically, just like other old monsters that were brought forward. To me, he feels much more like a real monster now, and I think that's awesome. And visually, I think the new version is also much more stylized. The colors pop on everything way more, from the glowing veins under his wings, to the bright pink antenna, or the flowing wings, the deep blue and purple of the frenzy attacks themselves. I much prefer the effects and visual style of the current version. They've definitely kept the core of the old style and brought it forward and given it a lot more speed and pace. So yeah, I'm really happy with the current version of Gore. Now let's jump in game and take a look at the armor, the skills on that, and of course the weapons, and talk about what I think about it. Let's begin with Gore's armor set then, which as you can see has 5 agitator on it, 5 constitution, 3 coalescence, and 3 speed eating. Design wise though, it's absolutely incredible. The way the cape actually has that kind of sheen and flow to it, just like his wings. You've got the shoulders, which are representing the wing arms clinging over the side of him. And of course the helmet, which has 3 prongs, which is interesting, instead of 2 for the antenna. That whole coloring, I just love it. That dark but then bright pink theme. This is one of the coolest looking sets in the game right now, 100%. Now obviously when it comes to the skills, these are pretty damn good. Agitator, this is really beneficial in basically every hunt because every monster is at some point going to enrage, and during that they're often more dangerous. You're dealing more damage, that obviously helps. Constitution is going to be great for, say, your stamina hungry weapons like dual blades, and then obviously bow. And speed eating is just a general nice skill to have. Coalescence is an interesting one. This temporarily enhances attacks after recovering from blights or normal statuses. So, take this with Frenzy. you are going to be afflicted by the frenzy buildup, you deal enough damage, you cleanse it, now you get the buff of coalescence. So coalescence is actually going to be great when you're fighting Gore, obviously. However, making this work in your general hunts is going to be a bit more awkward. Not every monster is going to afflict you with something that you can cleanse out and get this buff. So it could be relevant in those specific fights, but I just don't see this as a super relevant skill. Overall then, I find the helmet and the boots are the best pieces. The helmet comes with 1 agitator and 2 constitution. Those are just both nice. Whereas it's the boots that it's really good with that 3 agitator and then just an extra bit of speed eating. I think the boots are probably the best part, especially with the fact that the mantle is required for these, which makes sense. You also do get 3 constitution on a chest piece, so that's another thing to consider if you're after that. Then we have the weapons, which, my god, in the case of dual blades, look absolutely incredible. These have a solid amount of attack, but they also come with 20% affinity, which is really nice, alongside, yes, a little bit of dragon. This is certainly not going to be the weapon you pick to deal dragon damage, though. It's just a minor thing. And then it's got 20% affinity compared to, say, 40% of the Nagakuga weapons. The thing is, though, compared to the Nagakuga weapons, which yes have that extra 20% affinity, it has a level 2 rampage slot, which the Nagakuga only has a 1. This is going to be a major aspect of picking a good weapon in Sunbreak, and that is a major reason why this weapon could be good. It also has higher base attack than the Nagakuga weapons, and better sharpness at that. So in terms of style points, they're awesome. And terms in mechanics, they are somewhat competitive. It's going to be interesting when we see the final level at rarity 10 and compare all the weapons at once. And then we can form a real meta. But I think the weapons are not bad at all. Just the design on these things are absolutely just wonderful. The color of that, so like Tron. Just look at that greatsword, man. That's absolutely incredible. But for now, that is my full overview for Gore. Let me know what you think. The weapons are definitely up for contention and discussion in regards to meta, but design-wise, absolutely some of the best. Meanwhile, mechanically, visually, this new generation of Gore, I am a massive fan of, and I'm going to have a really good time hunting him for a long, long time. If the video has been useful, helpful to you, do please drop a like so we can keep making more videos like this. And be sure to subscribe for more Monster Hunter Sunbreak content coming over the next weeks as we dig more into this game. For now, though, thank you very much for watching. My name has been Hollow, you've been you, and I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.